from Chicago, born and raised. I retired from Chicago, from the Chicago Police Department, where I served the citizens of Chicago for 32 years with what I consider to be extremely high moral and ethical convictions, with integrity and professionalism. My background as far as educational is I have a bachelor's degree in political science and a master's degree in urban studies from Loyola University in Chicago. Again, like I said, I worked for the city of Chicago for 32 years, or almost 32 years. I came down here after retirement, lived in Pelican Bay, where we built a house, my wife and I. And over the course of the past 11, maybe 12 years now, I've worked, I've been quite active in our community and our association. I have been doing some odd things occasionally with the city. When I first came down here, I was involved, although I haven't been called yet. Mike Chitwood has me on his list to participate, if you will, in various things with the police department. I was cleared through that to the FBI to do that. And basically why I have this desire to run is, having come from a big city like Chicago, I'm very used to a city that works for the people. What I've been experiencing down here in Daytona Beach in the last almost 12 years is where there's a reluctance of the city to work for its people. I've been, in my schooling and learning about politics and political science and government and civics, was that government was created for the benefit of the people. It seems that, and I've seen it firsthand down here, it's really distressing. I see where the government here is working for the benefit of a select few, whether it's corporations or individuals, at the expense of all the folks that live here in Daytona Beach. I've come from a city where a politician, it's a bad word sometimes to say a politician, but a person's elected who has a public trust, a trust that you swear under an oath before God that you're going to serve the people that put you in office, be accountable to those people. And for some reason, I don't see that down here, and it stresses me. When I was helping Gwen during her campaign for mayor, I spent a lot of time in Midtown. And it was so heartbreaking to see how the city is neglecting Midtown. I spoke to kids out there who asked me if I got elected, could I get them a job, a summer job, because they needed something to do. Why don't we do that? In the course of my past 8 or 9 months in working on this campaign for Gwen and for myself, I've read every budget that we've proposed in the city that were passed. And I see some of the expenditures that just shock me to no end. That where we're outsourcing jobs, when we have a 10% unemployment rate. We're outsourcing jobs to the prisons to have prison labor do our work on our thoroughfares and our green areas. Outsourcing jobs that people that normally would have jobs in the city to companies outside Daytona Beach, who are hiring people outside the state to come in here to do jobs and then just leave us. That's not what government is. Some people are saying that government, we're too heavily dependent upon government. In some respects we are, but we have to be there for the people that need to be helped. And we're not doing it here in the city. I know I don't live in my zone, it's not Midtown, it's not Ridgewood, but those are two areas that are hardest hit, but what I consider to be deprivation, economic deprivation. And I view the city manager, the city commission, the city workers, or city administration to avoid problems and not really to solve problems. And that's probably one of the things that really pushed me over the top. I just didn't decide to just jump in the campaign like was alluded to in that one article in the paper. I thought about this for years. And really, Gwen is probably the reason. She's the one, she and I spoke many, many times. And I think she's the reason that I really, hearing her and hearing what she's done, it was the reason that I thought, yes, I'm going to go for this. It wasn't a second thought, it wasn't an afterthought, it's something that I had thought about for quite some time.
Given Tom, what you've seen then in terms of the city, and given what you've seen in terms of what you feel that the commission is doing or could do better, should be doing better, and the like, what are some, in terms of, even in terms of expenditures, as you've mentioned, as it relates to the budget, what are some areas where you feel that that people don't seem to be as knowledgeable in regards to some things that you found that the city maybe should be doing, could be doing, should not be doing, and the like? In particular, even budget issues that have come before the commission, and perhaps what decisions were made were decisions that, if you really care about the entire city and all of its residents and businesses and the like, the city could have done, maybe made a better decision or another decision.
Well, I can answer that question for hours and hours and hours because I've read this budget and I have experienced the budget process. And the budgets that are created by this city administration, it's like an exercise of futility. You need a dictionary, you may need a slide rule, a calculator to figure out who gets paid, what they get paid for doing, and how much they get paid. But going back to the question, prime example. Now, I have nothing against the ball field over there on Orange, Jack Robinson Stadium. I love baseball and the whole 9 yards. But we are investing money in a enterprise that is not making money for us. I read a memo that was sent out by the deputy city manager saying that the Cubs, the Daytona Cubs, want A, B, and C in order to do X, Y, and Z for the stadium. But we would have to invest a lot of our city dollars into that enterprise, and they coax it over that concept of being a public purpose policy, which was something that was contrived here for the Speedway many years ago. But in that memo, it said there specifically, this will not be a money maker for the city. Yet, without hesitation, without second thought, it was voted upon unanimously to say, go ahead, we'll give that money to this company that is not even from here, it's from Cleveland, to provide facilities for their ball fields. I mean, that, to me, I think it's a poor way of showing the people here that we don't want to care for you, for the problems that you have, but we'll take care of an outsider. Well, the same thing goes true for the field out the LPGA golf course. How can you, in good conscience, have their lease agreement when they're making money hand over fist with all their, I'm referring to land, to local land, they're making money hand over fist with all their investments, with their global enterprises, yet we're going to take what they're giving us and say, well, you can only pay for half. We don't worry about it because you've been a good business partner. Again, it hurts somebody else. It's going to hurt somebody in the inner city. It might hurt us over there by where we live at Pelican Bay. Jill's Crab Shack. I mean, I haven't been there yet, and I'm sure it's a great enterprise, but we bought out a contract for $1.5 million. Again, money that's going to come from someplace. Mm-hmm. We talk about one of my biggest things, and I had a great fortune of meeting Edison Jackson, Dr. Jackson. What a great guy he was. And I spoke when I went to Bethune-Cookman.
Yes, interim president.
At Bethune-Cookman, and I'm still appalled that the city is still fighting with the school about playing at the stadium. How could you have a facility like Bethune-Cookman that has its legacy, historical legacy in this city, that has grown from a college to a major university, that's part of a major football conference, MEAC, and yet we force them, and maybe I'm using too strict of a word, forcing, but we're having them play most of their games outside Daytona Beach, and they're at Daytona Beach University. Because of this nickel and dime going back and forth, well, I want to charge another $5 if otherwise charge another $10. When we're giving things away for free. If I was, and I told this in reference to Dr. Jackson, if I become fortunate to get elected, one of my first things I'll do is will that stadium to the college. The college should have that stadium. It should be the home of the Wildcats, and it shouldn't be just what it is right now. let the school have it, and I'm sure they'd make a great investment in establishing it as being a premier football facility for that school. But those are things, we seem to get away from, a lot of the budget items that we do, we get away from what's real in this town. Midtown. Again, when I was working on Gwen's campaign, I spent a lot of time talking to people in Midtown. Those folks, there's one lady I spoke to said she doesn't have paved streets. How can you not have a paved street in this city in the 21st century? And I checked, and sure enough, there's a half a mile in Daytona Beach that's not paved. How can we not have that? How can we have flooding in Midtown in the 21st century like we had 4 years ago, when they've known about this problem for 30 years? Orange Avenue needs to be repaired, but the city jumped at the opportunity to repave and work on ISB on 92 west of the interstate. We seem like we want to strangle or force out or turn away or just disregard the poor people. I consider Midtown, because I'm from a big city, the inner city. And I've seen it in my experience growing up in Chicago in years past, and I'm talking about in the days in the 60s and 70s when things were really touch and go with a lot of issues, is that people disregarded the inner city. They just closed the book on it in the hopes that it would just disappear. We can't do that anymore. We have to look at a lot of issues in this city. You know, there's issues with our taxes, how our taxes are set up, the fact that we don't have a fair share from Tallahassee when it comes to sales tax, that Deltona gets more money than we do from our sales tax, when all the money probably comes from Daytona Beach. We have a problem with the gasoline tax. We have a problem with the half cent sales tax. There's things that we could do. There's things that we could do for the city. I agree with what the Speedway may want to do down the road over the next course of 50 years. But doggone it, let's worry first about the people here. We have, in order to get from point A to point B, we got to go through the International Speedway. We got to go down Mason. You got to go down Dunn. And those are areas that should be taken care of. Let's take care of what is our people first. Mm-hmm. When I went to Bethune-Cookman, and I didn't get a chance to speak but 2.5 minutes, but those kids there were on the edge of the seat listening to us speak. That's the future of this country. You can't, you know, if no one votes for me, you know, so be it. If I get elected, I don't thank God for that. But I think that we need a winds of change. To quote Dr. Jackson, the winds of change have got to blow through the city. We have a great city. We have some great people. And we've got to start turning our energies away from tourism, because sure, it's a great idea, tourism, but turn them back to the people of the city. Not just to Beachside, not to LPG, to the LPGA big development out there, but to everybody here. I think from speaking to some of these kids at Juneteenth at the park, these kids are begging for somebody to come out and help them. Give them a job, give them a summer job. Help people with their homes. Fix up the streets, pick up the garbage. There's things that we can do. We can no longer be selfish. We have to be more friendly. And unless those things change, you know, we're in for dire times in this country. And I believe that, you know, even though we have 6 zones in this city, we're polarized. I mean, by just talking to people, you know that. And in some respects, I see 4 different entities in this city. You know, you have the west side, you have the middle side, you have the beach side, you have the west side. And it's very sad. And you can see where efforts are being made to improve what parts of the city by forgetting about what needs to be, you know, the base of these people, base of our city and our residents. And that's probably, you know, my whole idea about running is I'm not a savior, I'm not a, you know, I was a copper, I'm sorry, my wife hates when I say copper. I was a policeman for 30 plus years. I retired with a rank lieutenant. I believe in helping people. I believe in that our greatest asset are the kids growing up. We can't let the kids grow up in an area that they see nothing's happening for them. You have to say, you know, the government's here to help you. And I'm not saying welfare or stuff like that. I'm saying just give the honest dollar to where it has to go. That's all we have to do. My campaign, like Gwen alluded to, is being financed by myself, Gwen, few of my friends. I have no deep money interest in my campaign, none whatsoever. And I've told people that I will be accountable to you. If you don't like the way something is, you come to me, and I will change it. We had an incident by us in Pelican Bay. We had a water leak. And I found out the guys were great, but I found out that because of the cuts in the budget, we only have one crew repairing water leaks. In a city this large, how can you have one crew repairing water leaks? That's absurd. But if you look at their budget, you see in their budget, oh my God, you get all these managers, directors, managers, superintendents, but you only have a small cadre of workers that work the street. Let's shift, let's change that. Let's bring more of our people into work. I'm a proponent of residency requirements for the city, because I had to abide by that in Chicago. Any employee had to live where he worked, and he lived in Chicago, he worked in Chicago, because it made you proud of that thing. Here, I've spoken to people who don't even live near here, and they don't have the pride that you would have if you lived in the city. So I mean, there's a plethora of reasons why I want to run, and I mean, I know I just ramble on sometimes, but the thing is, I'm a people person. I love people. I love to talk, and I've seen people for too long being pushed down and having the boot around their neck saying, no, you're just going to stay here and live with it. Don't worry about it. Just like by us. I mean, there are things by us. I know we live in a gated community. We're fortunate. God blessed us in a great way. But there are things that we're being double taxed for the benefit of the CRAs on Oceanside. People say, oh, you're nuts. I'm not nuts. I mean, our taxes go up. We pay our taxes to the city, but there's certain parts of the city, especially Oceanside, Riverfront, where the taxes were frozen under the CRA plan. But they still pay taxes up to that frozen point. Whatever increase they get goes into a fund that they can use as they see fit. Right. Whereas our money, we don't get the benefits of a lot of stuff. And people say we can't do that because we live in a gated community. Well, that's not totally true. There are ways we can do things, and we can all benefit from the graciousness of our government. And we have to become more a people. We have to go back to a government of the people, for the people, and by the people. That's my premise. That's been my premise from day one, and I'm sorry if I offend people by saying that, but I don't think we're doing it right now in the city.
Now, one of the things that I noticed, I did not attend the recent commission meeting, but I did notice that they set some rates for citizens utilizing the one which is new and open, the Midtown Educational and Cultural Development Center, and then for the Von Scholar Golden Educational Cultural Center. There are rates that have been approved, and for the residents that live here, they may be shocked to find that they're going to be paying $50 to $75 more and more to rent out a room and use a room, and even more, a lot more than that for the gym and the like, and with a minimum of something like 3 hours. So that's an awful lot of money for people who reside in the city of Daytona Beach, who are already, and you know, Tom used the term poor. You know, some people may not like that term, but the bottom line is that Daytona Beach has become a poor community. It has become a poorer community over the years, and so we have individuals here who cannot afford paying, you know, $50, $75, $125 or whatever an hour to utilize something that really should be there for the people who live here. It should be there for them and for their use. And then they have a caveat that says that if you're a group like the Bel Air Community Group, you don't have to pay to use a room, but the regular citizens do have to pay to use it. You know, or if you're a, let's see, a neighborhood group, or if you're the other beachside watch group or a neighborhood group, either one of those that you don't have to pay, and we know the main ones are those that we have. So they don't have to pay to use those rooms as long as they do it during the certain times that they allow that to happen. Well, tell regular people who live here the regular times that they can use it and not have to pay, and I'm sure they will switch to those times as well. We do need to start doing more and giving more for Daytona Beach residents. We do need to do more and start giving more to Daytona Beach businesses, existing businesses. Because if we don't start doing more in the neighborhoods, as you are mentioning, and doing more in investing in our youth, investing in our elderly, investing in those who are in need, then what will happen is that eventually, as may be hoped for, those people will eventually move away, and then all of this land will be available for the money grabbers to come in and just take over the city. We would hope that that not be something that is hoped for and that is planned, but we would hope that, as you've stated, Tom, that the people who live in Daytona Beach, the people who work in Daytona Beach, the people who want to invest their energies and efforts and their family, have them grow up and develop in Daytona Beach, and the businesses that want to move here, to build here and to expand here, that they too would have a voice. They don't have to be a mega family, you know, with money. They don't have to be a mega business, but that they will be looked after. And we're not talking handouts, we're talking about doing what's right, being fair and being just to people who do reside in that Daytona Beach area. So what you're saying is, as the case for people who want to do what's right, they have the right heart, not a lot of money, and they're doing a lot of what they do, not only on the shoestring, but you're doing a lot of it yourself with those who are willing to be of help and assistance to you. And, you know, you need people like you. You need people who are willing to do that, who don't have, you know, their hands in the pockets of big money people. And, you know, I'm not saying there's a lot wrong with big money people. I'm just saying that usually, many times, the person who may not have a lot of money to begin with is not the person that big money people help or work with. What is it, Tom, that you would like to, you know, you've talked about some things that you're seeing that may not be quite right. Were you to be elected as city commissioner, and even though you've alluded to it to some extent, what is it that you would, and you mentioned one thing that you would do in terms of the municipal stadium, but what are other things that you see as you drive along the streets of Daytona Beach, or as you've said, you've mingled and you've talked with people who reside in the city, some of the businesses as well. What is it that you would do differently from what the incumbent in the position is currently doing? Just, you know, just to name a few.
Well, the first thing is, especially where we live at, on the west side of the city, I'm not really pleased, and I know it's county, state roads and things like that. There are things that can be done to make our area, for one thing, look a little more pretty. The biggest thing, of course, the biggest problem we have by us is getting in and out of Pelican Bay. There's a big issue regarding the stoplight. It's been going on for 10 years. We seem to have some kind of a disconnect with our part of the city versus other parts of the city. I know that our fire station across the street is our fire station, but when it leaves that house and goes to elsewhere in Volusia County, we're without fire coverage. I think that driving around and speaking, people, contrary to what's been in the paper the last 4 or 5 days, people aren't really happy about a lot of stuff. You know, they talk about crime. Crime may be down in the city on paper, because you can reclassify a major felony to a misdemeanor, that will lessen your crime stats. But people's perception of crime is not down. It's very, very high.
It's not down when you're reading about somebody having a shootout somewhere,
at
least once or twice a week in the city.
Well, this morning, 4 people were shot, killed in Castleberry in a beauty salon this morning.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. Our police we need to increase our police force. We need to ensure our fire trucks, our fire department, our fire station, I should say, are properly manned and equipped. Before I was barred from going to a fire station, which I was told I couldn't go to anymore, actually observed a fire truck that had cobwebs on it, because they only had a 2-man plus a driver in that station. The other truck couldn't be used. The issue regarding the outsourcing of a lot of our city jobs. One of the concerns is, why aren't these jobs being maintained here for the people that live and work in Daytona Beach? Well, it's a city issue. We have a contract for a street cleaner. Now, I've never, in my 12 years here, I've never seen a street cleaning machine except for by the Speedway, which I think is owned by the Speedway. But I found out that we contract out to a company that's supposed to sweep our streets. Never seen it. Well, our streets are not really maintained all that well. I know that where we live at, it can't be, but elsewhere, I've been in other places who said they've never seen a street cleaner.
And they always say, you know, because our former mayor, Yvonne Scaligo, and that was a major, major thing that she always brought up almost every meeting when she was a commissioner. And then she was told, well, it's because you don't have any curbs. Well, she said, then put in some curbs, and then we can use a street sweeper,
right,
because we definitely need a street sweeper in our areas. And I know that there is curbing on a great majority of streets in the city of Daytona Beach. So there should be street sweepers that are going around and cleaning up some of the trash and the trashiness that we see around the city. But I would agree, I've never seen one either in the many years that I have lived here, over 40.
But, you know, one of the things, a lot of people, until you get yourself involved in this political process like we have been this past year, you get into the budget, you get into the issues like, my thing is the perks and the benefits that are inundating the budget. It's causing, it's absolutely crazy to see how top-heavy management conscious we are in the city. Many people don't realize that like me, I didn't realize that until I start looking at this stuff. But when you speak to people, normal people like you and me on the street, not the people, the politicals in the hall, issues like just what we talked about, a dirty street, a street that is not being cleaned or debris not being picked up, a street corner that might have damaged a light. Those are the little things that people expect the government to provide. And in some instances, we don't do that. There was an issue by us. When we pull out by us, there was a broken table that was midpoint between us and Granite Apartments next door to us. That thing lay there for 3.5 weeks before it was just picked up. I was making phone calls. And it was, well, it's a county issue, it's a state issue, it's a city issue. Regardless, a city truck goes by, they can't pick that up. That's an eyesore. But they left it there. But people complain about the little things, and you know, you provide the little things, and that's what government for the most part is supposed to do, is care for what needs to be done, not the big expansive stuff. People are not happy because the little things aren't being done.
And if you ask anybody, you know, any tourist or person who visits a restaurant or visits anywhere, it's the little things that they look at. And I said, you know, I say this to my guests when we go to restaurants or whatever. When I go to a restaurant, if the bathroom is not clean, chances are I'm not going back to that restaurant. I don't care how well known or whatever it is. If you don't care enough about your patrons to keep your bathroom clean, then that's not a place that I or anybody else should visit. And you should have staff that take turns coming if you don't have somebody you pay to do it or whatever. But your bathrooms speak loudly about what kind of a restaurant or business you have. So, and you know, people would say, well, that's not a little thing. But actually, in terms of business, they consider that as a little thing. When tourists come to the area and they see trash on sides of the street, and then they come back by and they see that same trash, those are the little things that they notice. And that means that the city doesn't care about the trashiness or whatever. All they care about is getting your money, you know. And my thing is, if I'm going and I'm visiting and I'm a tourist in an area, then if you don't care enough about your city to keep it clean for me when I'm coming there, you know, then something is wrong. And that's not a place where I want to spend a lot of time. So little things do matter. Little things really make or break any business. And they too can make or break any community. And it doesn't always, this is part of what you were saying, it doesn't always cost a lot of money. I mean, there are volunteers that we have in our city who adopt a street or roadway. You know, we have people that are paid through Stuart Marchman that are paid to do with the green shirts. You guys see them downtown with green shirts that do some pickup. They were going into some other areas doing some pickup as well, because sometimes once you're done with downtown, you know, they're still on the clock. Let them go somewhere else nearby or whatever. Volunteers, there are volunteers out there that would love to help our city, to clean our city, and help do other things that they can be freed up to do. You know, do the background checks, everything that you need to do, but utilize those people who live in the area who want to help. Utilize them, and don't let an area just keep, you know, we see the tall grass that goes on for days and days and days before it's mowed. You know, there are ways now, I see where the county is now jumping on the bandwagon where they're now putting the seeds out where you have flowering, you know. Flowers look nice on the side if you can't mow it, you know, that regularly, the flowers being there, add a little something to the landscape. That's something they do up north a lot, they do North Florida a lot. We're starting to see a little of that there, and I think Daytona Beach could do some of that as well. But there are a lot of things, little things that could be done, and that's a lot of what you're saying, Tom, that those are the types of things that need to be done, need to be considered if we're going to see changes, positive changes in this city, if we're going to see positive changes that will let the people know that we care about them. And just before I let you on again, let me just say that you're listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest is Tom Koshka. He is the candidate for City Commissioner for Zone 4 in the city of Daytona Beach, and his name will be on the November ballot. For those who reside in Zone 4 and are residents, you know, in that area, but also registered voters. So that will be your decision on that part of the ballot. And for the most part, I believe it's on the first page of your ballot. One of, I think it's page 1 of 3 for Daytona Beach residents, where you will be voting for candidates, and the mayoral candidates and the city commissioners of 3 of the zones. You will be voting for in Zone 1 because former Commissioner Edith Shelley, who resigned to run for mayor, her office will be on for you to make a decision in terms of who you would like to see represent your zone in Zone 1. We have Zone, let's see,
4 and 6.
Yes, 4. And that's Tom's zone, Tom, and he's running against the incumbent Gilliland. And so you have a chance to decide whether or not money counts or heart counts. And Tom has the heart for that position. And of course, Zone 6, our city commissioner, Zone 6 is no longer running. So that is an open seat now, and you have 2 individuals who are running for that seat as well. And so you do want to, Zone 2, I did not call the name of Zone 2 because the city commissioner in Zone 2 had an uncontested race. That's Pam Woods, so she is automatically elected back into office. And so again, you have Zones 1, 4, and 6 in the mayoral office in Daytona Beach. And depending on where you reside, you know, you have similar scenarios where you have in addition to municipal, possibly, depending on the years and where it falls for this election. And then you have county individuals who are running, you have state individuals who are running, you have congressional leaders that are running, and of course you have the presidency. And that is your decision in terms of who you will be voting for. But I have already voted for President Obama to go back into office. Now, Tom, one of the things that we found when I was campaigning, as you're campaigning, I think as other people are campaigning too, There are a lot of people who say they want to see the candidate, they want to hear the candidate. There are all kinds of forums and opportunities there for individuals to come out and to hear individuals, you know, in terms of debate. I don't know that for your seat that there's been much of an opportunity, probably not very much, just a few minutes here and there.
Well, unfortunately, yes. But I didn't go to a lot of meetings. I did attend a number of forums. Unfortunately, most of them were outside Zone 4, where I did speak. The folks there allowed me to say a few words, pass out my little cards that I'll be able to get with my limited resources. There is one coming up that I will be on next Friday, I believe it is. I think it's Cynthia Slater invited me to a forum over at the Calvary Church, I believe, or I think it is the Calvary Church. That's at 6:30 next Friday night. I do have the opportunity to be on radio, like your show, thank God. I was on the Mark Bernier's show earlier.
You were supposed to be on it.
I was supposed to, well, I was on it last month solo.
Oh, wonderful.
But then I was supposed to be on it again with a joint appearance. And I don't know what happened, but when I got my initial phone call, it was supposed to be at 5 o'clock. I said, no, I couldn't make it at 5 because I have one show at 6. So he said, well, how about 3? I said, that's fine. And he said, I'll have to get back to you once I contact the incumbent to make sure that that time is right with him. Well, I would check. In fact, I even spoke to Bernier on his show last week, toward the end of the week. I never got a return phone call, and today at a meeting that we were at together, a number of people approached me and says that you were supposed to be on the show today. And I said, well, no, because I never got a phone call. So either it was a mess up in his communication because I have nothing at home, there's nothing on my answering machine, there's nothing on my telephone ID recording device. So either he called the wrong house or he just didn't call me. But unfortunately, I missed that joint appearance. But yes, that's one of the things even when I spoke to Mark Bernie is that there's no place in Zone 4 for people to meet. I cannot. The doors are being slammed in my face in a lot of places in Zone 4 because they're all private. For example, we can't walk door to door in Pelican Bay. That's prohibited by our CNRs. When I went next door to the place alongside of us, I go to the office and they say no, their company does not allow campaigning on their property. So there's two right there, two big areas right there. Up on Williamson, there's a big assisted living place, or not assisted, but a affordable living place for senior citizens. That's the same thing. They will not allow me to be there. Carolina Apartments, the same thing. I can't go there and speak because they don't allow it. And so the thing I have to do is by word of mouth and trying to speak to people, and even going to the phone book, as weird as this may sound, and going to the phone book and finding addresses based upon street names to send flyers to people with, again, limited resources. But every chance, if I hear something where I can go and speak, like when I was invited by Daisy Grimes to speak at the Bethune Cookman, I jumped at the opportunity. When I think it was Bob Green, or I forget his name, at BBC, I went to, or Grimm, Bob Grimm, I went to there and I spoke there. I had a table there, and I was actually allowed to speak. Well, I was allowed to, but I actually spoke for a few minutes. I think it's a great thing. I would love to just to pay people. I love, and I'm not a person to back away from a debate or from a discussion. We had one by us in the Pelican Bay Country Club, which I was allowed to speak for a few seconds, not a lot of time.
That was when they had the mayor?
Correct.
Yes,
correct.
Yes. Now, how can people contact you if they would like to set something up and give you an opportunity to come out and speak?
They could call me. I can give you my phone number.
Yes.
The only campaign office is my home. And my wife would love to hear this, but it's going to be, I'm sure she's listening. It's 767-0268. That's my home phone number. That's our only number. And like I said, between now and Election Day, I am available for anything. I'm still out there. I stop at different places and I try to get my information out. It's like anything else. You have to have a desire, a want to do this. One of the things I differ from my opponent is that I will be a full-time commissioner, as I am with the association operator. Even though, you know, we get no pay for that in the association, we're there and it's time consuming. I will be a full-time commissioner, and I'll be the people's voice. I'll be accountable to the people of Zone 4. And if a person calls me, and I'm getting calls right now, strangely enough, people think I am a commissioner, but I got a crack in the pipe in front of my house. What do? Okay, but see, that's what I'm used to in Chicago. When you had a neighborhood problem, you called the precinct. You called the alderman, the precinct captain. And my God, he was there in a blink of an eye because he wanted to make sure you were happy. If you're happy, you're going to vote for me come election day. And that's what we don't have here. We don't have accountability. We don't have commitment. And that's what I want to be. I want to be accountable and committed to the people that I represent. Like I am in the estates where I live at our association. A person can call me at any time, day or night. And if I can't help them, I will be there. Me and my wife, I'll drag my wife along too, because she loves to be part of me. She's probably saying, what are you talking about me for on the radio for? But I love you, babe.
And
but,
she does.
She's a great lady. She's a great lady.
Loves people.
But I think that, you know, we're entering a difficult time in this country, and I think that we have to, our people are our prime resource. You know, we can't afford to let happen in our cities what's happening in Europe, like in Greece, Paris, London, France, I should say France and England, and where people are getting upset. Because people, if you shy away from taking care of people, if you take away from people what they deserve, you're going to have people are going to be upset, and you don't want that here. You want to make sure people are content. You have to be a people's person, and in some respects, I don't think we do that down here. I think that we kind of like forget about that concept, and that's what I want to be. I want to be make sure if a person has a problem, he can call me, and I will be there. And whether it's a problem in a cracked sink or the fact I can't get the store, we've got calls where people say, I can't get the store, can you help me, can you take me to the store? My car broke down, can you help me fix my car? We've done that, my wife and I. And we're proud of that fact. And I formed an allegiance and alliance where I live at. And up and down my street there's a lot of TK signs up, Tom Koska signs. There's one, my opponent sign. But people, because I'm there for people, and I want people to realize that we're here, God put us here for a reason. I mean, I can tell you a story, if you got a minute? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Years ago when I was in Chicago, I was a sergeant in a downtown area, downtown district. And when you're a street sergeant, once someone put you on the desk, be a desk sergeant. So they brought in this old guy, and he was a black guy, he was old, probably 70, and I had to say that because of where I'm going to go with the story. It touched me. It's an emotional story. He came in and he was arrested for a jumping turnstile. And I was a desk sergeant, and I don't see him until after we were ready to bond out. We give him an I bond. I was talking to the fellow, and he says, you know, all I'm doing is going to work. And he says, I don't get paid till tomorrow. And he says, I have to get home, and I just jump the turnstile to get the L train, which is the underground transportation system, to get home. And he's got to be, at that time I think it was 40. He was probably my age right now, 65. So I felt bad for this guy. I mean, he was legitimate. So I gave him money to take the train home and to take the train to work to get his paycheck. Well, everybody laughed. They said, you're a sucker. A sucker's born every minute. I said, no. You know what? I got faith. Because my dad worked in a factory his entire life. My dad never wore a suit except for church on Sunday morning. My dad would wear a suit every Sunday. My dad told me, he said, learn to respect and love everybody, which I did. Well, I had 2 days off, and I came back to work on the car on the street, and I get called to come in the station. And there's a fellow with his family. He came back to give me $1.25 that I gave him to go home. And his wife and his kids hugged me. And and that touched my heart. And he says, you did it. He said, if you were a black sergeant, you would probably done it. You were a white kid. I said, because I'm a person, a people's person. He said, that touched us. He says, you'll always be in our prayers. And that's how I envision life to be. And I'll never forget that as long as I live. And I've always been that way, and that's, you know, no matter who needs help, I will, if I have to, bend over backwards. Maybe I'm too naive to be a politician, and I don't know. But that's how I am, that's who I am. You probably know that, you've been on for 12 years,
yes,
so.
Yes. And you do bend over backwards to help anybody at any time, you know. And sometimes, you know, and your wife's that way too, even though she might come down on you a little bit, because sometimes you don't do as much as you need to. You gotta take care of yourself too, Tom. But you are that type of a person, and that's the type of a person that people would get if they were to elect you as a city commissioner for Zone 4. And again, that's Tom Koshka. And I would just, you know, just say this, that our city commission needs individuals on it in Daytona Beach who have heart, and they need people who will look out for the cares of others. And I'm not saying there are not people on there that do that now. There are some, and I know that that's something Edith has done. I will give her credit for that. And Pam Woods, you know, does that as well. And you know, Cassandra, but she's going off, you know, so there is a need on that commission, and Tom would be a great asset, and he would be a great addition, so I hope you guys will give him consideration, strong consideration, you who live in Pelican Bay and throughout the zone, Zone 4, that you give him consideration, because his heart is in the right place. And there are some things that you do learn as you get into the position, and other things that you can't learn, and that's the heart part of it, H-E-A-R-T, heart part of it. So, Tom, if you would give them, again, contact information as we prepare to go off the air, so that those who are listening who would like to even send you money, give them an address where they can mail in some money to you. Is that time passed?
I think it's going to be coming up next week.
Okay,
so.
All right, so time is short for anyone who does want to make a contribution. Tom had some promises made that were not kept. I know how that goes. But he is in need of some assistance. So those of you who can assist him by mailing in some dollars, or even, you can even call him when he gives you his phone number. He'll even come and pick it up, I'm sure. But he does need just a few dollars to be able to do a little something, so that you guys do know that he is real, that he exists, and that he does want to help this city. Not just Zone 4, but he wants to help the entire city. So, Tom, if you give them a mailing address for mailing checks and a phone number, so they can call you if they want to help, or if they want to call you to come pick up some money.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, absolutely, positively. The address is 925 Seaduck Drive, S-E-A-D-U-C-K Drive, Daytona Beach, 32119. And my phone number is 767-0268. And like I said, even if I'll come out and speak to people, I will come out and, you know, speak to people and whatever. I love to meet people, and I promise, I promise, because of an oath I swore when I took my job as a Chicago police officer, an oath before God and the people of the citizens of Chicago. My office is a public trust and public faith that I will do my job for all the people. And I mean every one of us, not just a select few, but every one of us. Gwen, thank you so much for this opportunity. I really enjoyed this time. Thanks.
Thank you. And a special shout out to your wife, Kathy, too, my dear friend. Super person, as are you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And again, a shout out again to my husband.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. And eat well now, because I haven't cooked tonight. You know, I've been on meetings all day, so listen, guys. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure again to go to the website at www.gwen-truth.com, so you can again access all those links that we've got, so you can take part in the query that we have, and you can also see the guests that are upcoming. And also from there, you can also go to YouTube. You know, any one of the videos you click onto will take you to the YouTube site, where you can see the dozens of recordings that we have, video recordings of This show will be up, as will other shows, so please, 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 go to the website, www.gwen-truth.com, so you can access everything that's there. It will give you all the information you need to be what? All powerful, all powerful. Again, you've been listening to Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards. My guest, Tom Koshka, candidate for Zone 4 City Commissioner in Daytona Beach, Florida. And be sure to tune in every Thursday, not just this Thursday, but every Thursday at 6:15 or whenever we boot the big guy out of the chair. What can I say? Sometimes it's 2 or 3 minutes after that, but you know, every so often he surprises me and actually allows me to go on time, so 6:15. But 6:15 every Thursday. And thank you again for listening. To all of our biker friends, howdy, welcome, and all that good stuff. You guys have a safe time here, an enjoyable time here. Remember the residents, remember the drivers as they remember you and the motorcyclists. Have a great time. You guys have a great week. Thank you for listening. Again, Truth with Gwen Azama-Edwards, Tom Koshka, candidate for City Commissioner Zone 4, Daytona Beach. To all of you, shout out. Have a good time and God bless.
This was the most